Our story happened in the United States, in the city of Tacoma, which is in the state of Washington. In Tacoma, the heroine of our story was born. Her name was Lauren Giddings. Lauren was born in 1984. She was from the 80s generation, the ones who think they never age. The ones who insist they're still young. But come on, let's be real. Time has passed. The 90s generation has grown up now. The 80s and 70s, let's move on. That chapter's done. But anyway, Lauren was born in 1984 in Tacoma, Washington. She was blonde, beautiful, and always smiling. She had great manners. She was athletic, social, smart, ambitious. She had every good quality you could think of. Honestly, anyone looking for a life partner should have gone for her. She had it all. And her wonderful personality came from her upbringing. She grew up in a tight-knit, loving family. They supported her in everything she wanted to do. She was always surrounded by her parents and her two younger sisters. Her dream from a young age was to become a lawyer. She always said she'd be the best attorney one day. In 2008, Lauren turned 24. She moved from Tacoma to Georgia, specifically to a place called Macon. Why did she go there? To pursue her dream, to continue her education, to go to law school. She wanted to make that dream a reality. She chose Macon specifically because it was a quiet place, a peaceful place. The people there were friendly and knew each other well. They had a saying, "There are no strangers among us." No crimes, no problems. So Lauren settled in. She found a place to live. She got into law school. And after a while, she had to complete an internship at a law office as part of her program. It was a practical requirement. She had to work at a law firm to graduate. She began training at one of the law offices. The lawyer there was named David. The moment Lauren and David met, they fell for each other. They entered into a relationship. You came here to study, girl. What's with the romance? But hey, that's not the point of our story. Lauren and David got close. They loved each other deeply. Even though David was 20 years older than her, their age gap didn't matter. They truly cared for each other. Even when they were apart, they couldn't stand it. If Lauren visited her family or David was busy with work, they missed each other like crazy. So either she'd go to him or he'd come to her. Basically, nothing could separate them. They agreed that after Lauren graduated and passed her final exam, she'd move in with David. They would live together. In their culture, it's normal to live together before marriage. First they get to know each other, then live together, then have kids, and only then they get married. Weird order, but hey, it's their culture. So Lauren and David had a plan. She'd graduate, pass her final exam, and move in with him. In 2011, Lauren finally graduated from law school. She had made her dream come true. She was on her way to becoming a lawyer. She celebrated with her family and friends, but there was still one last exam she had to pass. The final test before she could officially become a lawyer. At the same time as her graduation, her younger sister was getting married. Lauren attended the wedding. They danced, celebrated, and had a good time. Lauren said a few sweet words to her sister. After the wedding ended, Lauren said goodbye to her family and friends. But the way she said goodbye was strange, like it would be the last time they saw her. She told them that graduating didn't mean she was done. She still had to pass the final exam, which would determine her career, whether she'd become a lawyer or not. She said she had to study hard for this exam, that she would isolate herself and make use of every minute to prepare. She told them not to worry if she didn't reply quickly to messages, or if she didn't answer their calls right away. She might respond a day or two later. She told them, "Don't be scared. My mind is just focused on this exam. This is my dream." And just like she said, she started studying. She cut off contact with everyone. She even reduced her communication with her boyfriend, David. One day, Lauren sent David a message. David, being a well-known and very busy lawyer, didn't always check his messages right away. Sometimes a message would come and he'd think, "I'll open it later." And then it gets lost in the pile of notifications. We all do that sometimes. Even though they were in love, her in her 20s and him in his 40s, he was more laid back. He trusted her. He probably thought it wasn't urgent and would reply later, especially since they were about to move in together. David loved her deeply. He even knew her favorite color was pink. She always tried to get him to wear pink, but he refused. He'd say pink wasn't manly enough. Imagine, even an American guy refused to wear pink. She'd joke with him about it. But David had a surprise planned. At the end of the year, he was going to wear pink just for her. He was going to take her to an island. Right by the ocean, he would propose to her. How romantic, right? This 40-something-year-old man planning a pink shirt proposal. But then Lauren sent him a message, and she got upset when he didn't reply. She was nervous. She was scared. A few days passed, and her sisters, her dad, and David all began to feel uneasy. Lauren wasn't replying to anyone. Yes, she had said she'd isolate herself, and that she might reply late, but now it had been several days. Not a single word from her. No quick message to say she's okay. On the night of Wednesday, June 29th, 2011, a friend of Lauren's called her younger sister. He asked if she knew where Lauren was. "Where is she?" That's when her sister and family really started to worry. They hadn't heard anything from her either. And now her friends were calling them asking about her. Her sister replied nervously, "I don't know where she is. I'll try to find her." Lauren lived in a different city from her sister. So her sister contacted Lauren's neighbors and friends who lived nearby. With every call, the fear grew. Even her neighbors said they hadn't seen her in a few days. She used to go for runs around the house. She went to the gym. She went to the supermarket. She was always out and about. Now no one had seen her, and that was suspicious. Among those who tried to contact Lauren was a friend named Ashley. Ashley had a spare key to Lauren's apartment. They told her to go check. "Go in and see if she's okay." Ashley entered the apartment. At first glance, everything seemed normal. No strange sounds. The lights were off. Lauren's belongings were all there. Her clothes, purse, papers, keys. Even her laptop and phone were still in the apartment. That meant she hadn't traveled. She clearly didn't plan to be gone for long. If someone leaves all that behind, it means they were planning to come back in a few minutes. But she had been missing for days. Ashley checked the parking lot. Lauren's car was still there. It hadn't been moved, hadn't even been washed. Now her friends were terrified. They had reached peak panic. They called the police immediately. Officers arrived quickly. They began searching with the help of Lauren's friends. She lived in an apartment complex, so they focused their search there. They kept looking until midnight, even stayed out until 3 a.m. on Thursday, June 30. That same day, Lauren was supposed to move in with David. David was devastated. When the police contacted him, they asked if he'd heard from her. He checked his phone and found an unopened message from Lauren. When he read it, he broke down in tears. He regretted not opening it sooner. In the message, Lauren wrote, "There's someone in my apartment. I feel like someone's here." David showed the message to the police. That was when they realized Lauren had likely been kidnapped. At that time, Lauren's sisters and friends tried not to tell her parents what was happening. They didn't want to worry them until they found her. But eventually, they had no choice. They had to tell them. Her father had been sleeping. They woke him up and broke the news. The moment he heard it, he jumped in his car and headed to Macon. Her mother, meanwhile, was about to travel. Right before boarding the plane, her two daughters showed up and took her from the airport. They told her what had happened to Lauren. All of this was happening early Thursday morning. The first search for Lauren was done by local officers, but the second search was handled by homicide detectives. Lauren's father insisted she was dead. He told the police, "I'm sure she's been killed. I'm her father. I can feel it." That statement made the police take things even more seriously. They started searching everywhere. The first time they hadn't searched thoroughly. Because she was an adult. Maybe she just spent the night at a friend's place. But now, with the statements from her family and friends, the police launched a full-scale investigation. On Thursday morning, June 30th, 2011, law enforcement spread out. The area was busy, so there weren't many spots for police cars to park. As a result, they parked their cars randomly, wherever they found space. This random parking decision turned out to be the thing that saved the entire investigation. And I'll tell you how in a bit. Each officer parked close to Lauren's apartment complex. They entered the apartment. They sprayed the place with a chemical called luminol. Luminol is a substance that reveals blood, even if it's been cleaned. Police always use it in cases of kidnapping or murder. Even if someone scrubs a crime scene clean, luminol will still show traces of blood. They sprayed it around the entire apartment. In the bedroom, in the living room, in the kitchen. Then they reached the bathroom. The bathroom was spotless. Everything seemed in place, just like the rest of the apartment. But they still sprayed luminol. Then they turned off the lights. The moment the lights went off, the room lit up in blue. One detective said it was as if they hadn't even turned off the lights. That's how much blood there was. That's when they realized they were looking for a dead person, not a missing one. There was so much blood, no one could survive that kind of loss. Whether it was Lauren's blood or someone else's, a murder had taken place. All of this was happening while Lauren's friends were still searching. Their efforts were attracting media attention. Reporters began showing up. People from the community joined the search. Her classmates, neighbors, everyone came out to help. One of her closest classmates and her neighbor was a guy named Stephen McDaniel. Friends, neighbors, and residents of the area were all trying to help. They gave interviews. They contacted the police. They did everything they could to support the investigation. And then, during the same day, something happened. The garbage truck made its routine rounds, picking up trash from outside people's homes. Remember how I said the police cars were parked randomly? Because of that, the garbage truck couldn't reach all the bins. It skipped some of them, which meant some trash bins were left untouched. And thank God for that, because the secret was inside one of those bins. If the truck had emptied them, the evidence would have been gone forever. A few hours later, a horrible smell filled the air. A strong, foul odor. The police recognized it immediately. They knew it was the smell of a dead body. They started tracing the smell, until they reached a trash bin. They hadn't checked the bins earlier. Why would they? The city was peaceful, with almost no crime, and they were expecting to find a whole person, not pieces. But in that bin, they found part of a human body, just a torso, half a human. It was Lauren, the young lawyer who had just graduated. The woman David planned to propose to. Lauren's friends who saw the scene began vomiting. No one expected to find someone they knew like this. And not even whole, just pieces. The entire area turned chaotic. People cried. People screamed. Crowds gathered. News reporters swarmed in. Photographers showed up. And among the people there was Stephen McDaniel, her neighbor, her classmate, the guy who was going to become a lawyer too. At that time, Stephen didn't know they had found Lauren's body. He was standing there, speaking to a reporter from a local TV station. It was 1:30 p.m. He told the reporter that no one had seen Lauren since Saturday. He said she was a great person. He said they went to the same school, that they were close. He mentioned that one of their friends had a spare key to her apartment, that they went inside and couldn't find any clues. He said maybe she went for a run and someone kidnapped her. He said the door was locked and there were no signs of a break-in. Then the reporter asked him something. She said, "What do you know about the body?" She told him that they were currently removing body parts from a trash bin. Stephen froze. He interrupted her. "A body?" Then he went silent. He looked extremely nervous. The reporter asked, "Are you okay?" He said, "I feel like I need to sit down." Then he walked over and sat on the curb. That was the first big red flag. His reaction was odd, very suspicious. As the saying goes, the guilty one always says, "Take me." It was written all over Stephen's face. I think by now you've probably guessed who killed Lauren. The next day, Friday, Stephen went to the police station by himself. No one summoned him. He volunteered to give a statement. He stayed there for almost 12 hours, and he confessed to strange things. He was supposed to be giving a statement about Lauren's case, but instead he started talking about himself. He confessed to breaking into several apartments, in the same building where Lauren lived. Even though that wasn't related to the case, it raised suspicion. If someone casually admits to theft, they may have done worse. Most innocent people would be nervous if accused of even a minor crime. But Stephen was calm. He seemed fine admitting to theft, which meant he was hiding something far worse. The police were now 60% sure he was involved. Then Stephen told them, "You can search my apartment if you want." He acted like he had nothing to hide. That made them even more suspicious. And when they searched this idiot's apartment, this overconfident fool, they were shocked by what they found. They discovered a saw. It had just been purchased. Its box was still there. The saw had clearly been cleaned. Fingerprints had been wiped off, but traces of blood were still on the saw's teeth. They also found blue gloves with blood on them. And even more disturbing, they found women's underwear. He was keeping Lauren's underwear in his apartment. It's like all that was missing was her ears in a drawer or her fingers in the fridge. As for his laptop, it was worse than the apartment. When police checked his computer, they found messages and activity on the dark web. Websites focused on torture. Stephen had written under the username Soul. He posted articles about violence against women, and in one of his posts, written a year earlier, he said, "I could easily watch a man disemboweled and crawling across the floor and not feel disgusted. On the contrary, it's natural to me. I don't have sensitivity to blood or torture. I actually enjoy it. In another post, he described a situation that was clearly about Lauren. He wrote, "It makes me think of a man who finds a special woman. He wants to protect her from pain, but he ends up hurting her because he's mentally broken. He can't express his feelings, so he watches her from afar." It was clear he was talking about Lauren. That post was from a year ago. Stephen had been Lauren's neighbor for 3 or 4 years. He had been watching her the entire time. She had no idea. Stephen was arrested immediately. He was officially charged with Lauren's murder. DNA tests confirmed it. The torso and remains they found belonged to Lauren. They determined she had been killed 4 days before her body was found. On August 6th, the funeral was held for Lauren. It was in the church where she grew up. Her coffin was small, because they only found part of her body, just the torso and a few remains. You're probably wondering now, who is Stephen? And why did he do all of this? Stephen Mark McDaniel was born on September 9th, 1985. He was around 26 years old when he committed the crime, just 1 year younger than Lauren. His childhood was very normal. He lived with his parents and sister. He was very smart, obsessed with cleanliness, and extremely organized, despite looking messy and unkempt. He loved puzzles and mysteries, and he was a big fan of Lord of the Rings. In 2004, he graduated from high school and earned a scholarship to study law because of his excellent grades. But socially, he was isolated. He didn't have many friends and rarely hung out with anyone. He didn't drink alcohol and dreamed of writing a novel someday. He loved criminal law and hoped to become a federal judge. All this, and he was a murderer. In 2008, he met the love of his life, Lauren. They were both in law school. She was popular, social, and successful. She was the president of several student organizations. Stephen, on the other hand, was invisible. No one knew or noticed him. But he was obsessed with her. He approached her multiple times, asking to hang out. She always politely declined. She told him clearly that she was in a serious relationship. That should have been the end of it. But for Stephen, that's when his obsession began. He started stalking her. A few days after his arrest, inside the interrogation room, Stephen confessed everything. He said he had made a copy of Lauren's apartment key. He had broken into her place several times before. He watched her while she slept without her even knowing. One time she was awake, so he couldn't go in. So he taped a camera to a long stick, about 2 meters, and lifted it from the ground floor to her window to spy on her. Investigators later found this footage. It was recorded the day before Lauren was unalived. The same day she sent that chilling message to David saying someone was in her apartment. She was right, Stephen was watching her. The next day, Stephen entered her apartment while she was sleeping. He sat at the edge of her bed. Suddenly, Lauren woke up and found a masked man next to her. She told him, terrified, get out of here!" Instead of leaving, he jumped on her and grabbed her by the neck. She resisted, fighting him with everything she had. She ended up on the floor, her legs stuck under the bed, her upper body exposed, making it harder to fight back. She scratched and hit him, even pulled off his mask. That's when she saw it was Stephen, her neighbor, her classmate, the guy who'd always asked her out. Now he was the one trying to unalive her. Stephen said that once she saw his face, there was no turning back. He kept strangling her for 15 minutes until she stopped moving. He dragged her body to the bathroom and put her in the tub, still in her pajamas. Then he went back to his apartment and sat at his computer, probably searching for ways to get rid of the body. At noon, he returned to Lauren's apartment with a handsaw. He dismembered her body. Some he dumped in bins around the university, but he kept her torso in his apartment for 2 days before throwing it in the complex's garbage bin, thinking the garbage truck would take it away. When investigators asked why he did it, he said, "Wait, I'll tell you." Then he started describing her. She was sweet, kind, had long hair. He was describing her beauty instead of giving a reason. Eventually, he said, "She was always kind to me, smiling, saying hi. I didn't know how else to keep her near me. She was graduating, leaving town. I couldn't handle that." A pathetic excuse. After they examined his computer, they didn't just find evidence of spying on Lauren. They found proof of other disturbing activities. He had 22 illegal images involving minors stored on an external hard drive. He also watched graphic videos involving extreme violence and disturbing fantasies. The investigators realized they weren't just dealing with someone dangerous. They were dealing with someone with severely twisted and harmful interests. If they hadn't caught him now, Stephen would have likely harmed again. Someone with that level of obsession detachment from reality, and violent urges could have become a repeat offender. On August 23, 2011, Stephen was officially charged, not just in Lauren's case, but also with 7 additional offenses, mostly related to the exploitation of minors. His bail was set at $850,000. Even if he worked his entire life, he wouldn't be able to afford it. So he remained in jail while awaiting trial. In February 2013, his trial finally began. The prosecutor announced they would not be pursuing the death penalty. Why? Because Lauren's family requested it. Throughout her life, Lauren had been against capital punishment. She believed it should be abolished. To honor her beliefs, her family asked the court not to seek the ultimate sentence. Even one of her professors volunteered to defend Stephen in court for that reason. He said, "I love teaching Lauren. She was an amazing student, and I believe this is what she would have wanted." Honestly, if Lauren were alive, she might have been furious. She was against the death penalty in theory. But would she have wanted mercy for someone who took her life, dismembered her, and left her in the trash? Regardless, a deal was made. The prosecution told Stephen, "Confess, plead guilty, tell us every detail about that night. In return, we'll drop the additional charges and reduce your sentence from capital punishment to life imprisonment. But you won't be eligible for parole until 2041. Stephen agreed. He confessed. He was sentenced to life in prison, no possibility of parole until 2041. Despite all the evidence and his full confession, Stephen's mother still didn't believe he was capable of such a thing. In 2018, she launched an online fundraiser to pay for lawyers to fight his conviction. Lauren's family filed a complaint. The fundraiser was shut down. In 2022, Stephen tried to appeal. He claimed he was mentally ill and not fully responsible for his actions. The court rejected his appeal. He remains in prison. Even though he confessed, Stephen insisted on one point. He claimed he didn't assault Lauren. But because her body was not fully recovered, they couldn't confirm or deny it. He said, "I didn't harm her that way. I don't even know how I did what I did. I still can't explain it. I know what I did was wrong. I regret it. I miss her every day. I know her family won't forgive me. There's no way to make this right. If I could go back in time, I would undo everything." And all of it was because one girl didn't love him back. She had a boyfriend. She didn't choose him. That wasn't a crime. She didn't owe him anything. It's not love if it turns into obsession and violence. Others moved on when she said no. But Stephen decided that if he couldn't be with her, no one would. Even though Lauren was smart and educated in law, in the end she didn't act on her instincts. She sensed something was off. She even said she felt someone was in her apartment. She sent a message asking for help, but she didn't leave. She didn't call the police. She didn't call David. She just tried to sleep it off. And that night Stephen struck. Sometimes people call you paranoid for being cautious, but being cautious can save your life. If you lose your keys, assume the worst. Change your locks. Protect yourself. Even if others think you're being too careful. It's better than them someday saying, "Rest in peace." Stephen broke in, ended her life, dismembered her, and threw her away. And in the end, people advocated against punishing him too harshly. They said Lauren was against harsh sentences. Maybe she was. But she also didn't expect to become the victim of such cruelty.